7. Dark spiritual signs. Your third eye is quietly awakening. There comes a moment in your life, quietly and without announcement, when reality starts to glitch, not in the dramatic movie-style sense, but in ways that make you pause. You look at the clock and it's 3:33 again. A stranger says a sentence you dreamed about 2 nights ago. A heavy silence fills the room, and you feel like someone's watching, but you're alone. No neon sign points to it, but something within you begins to stir. That something is your third eye, whispering through the veil of everyday life. But contrary to what you've heard, this awakening isn't always beautiful or comforting. In fact, it usually begins with unsettling, dark spiritual signs that test your grip on reality. Most ignore them. But you're still here. And that means your third eye might already be opening, quietly and in the shadows. The first sign is isolation, but not the kind where you simply lose touch with friends or feel temporarily alone. It's an existential kind. You could be in a crowded room, yet feel like you're looking at life from behind a veil. You listen to people talk, but they sound distant, like echoes through fog. You start questioning why you're even there, why everyone seems asleep. You try to connect, but the words fall flat. This isolation is not a punishment. It is sacred separation. Your soul, guided by the higher self, is pulling you away from noise to prepare you for deeper seeing. The loneliness is the cocoon, but in that dark cocoon you will feel like you're dying. The truth, a part of you is. Your attachment to the illusion is dissolving.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
And then comes the second sign. Emotional chaos. Suddenly you're crying for no reason. You're raging at invisible enemies. You feel waves of euphoria and then plummet into sadness within minutes. This is not instability, it's detox. Your third eye doesn't open like a door, it erupts like a volcano, pushing everything that doesn't belong in the light of higher perception to the surface. Old traumas, ancestral pain, buried fears, they all rise, screaming for release. You think you're breaking down, but you're actually breaking open. Can you hold yourself in that storm, or will you rush to numb it again? Most people never see the light because they refuse to face the dark. Now the third sign is even stranger. Your dreams change. They're no longer dreams, they feel real. You begin to visit places that seem familiar, yet you know you've never been. You meet beings that speak in symbols, not words. You wake up sweating, heart racing, with fragments that make no logical sense, but your soul knows. These are not dreams. These are astral echoes. The third eye, when stirring, sends your consciousness to dimensions your waking mind can't grasp yet. Pay attention to what repeats. Pay attention to what frightens you. Often, what scares you the most in your dreams is actually showing you the parts of yourself you've locked away. When the veil thins, the unconscious becomes conscious. But it doesn't come with a gentle knock. It breaks the door in. Let me ask you this. Have you been feeling the presence of someone when you're alone? That soft breeze in a room with no open windows? The cold chill that walks up your spine when nothing's there? This is the fourth sign, energetic sensitivity. The third eye is not just a gateway to visions, it is a portal to frequency. When it begins to awaken, you don't just see what's unseen, you feel it. Spirits, intentions, thoughts, emotions. They become vibrations in your field. This can be terrifying at first, especially if you grew up believing the unseen world was dangerous. But the truth is, the third eye doesn't create new darkness. It only reveals what was already around you. You're not being haunted. You're becoming aware. Faith. And this one's hard to explain unless you've felt it. Time becomes weird. Days stretch and shrink. Hours pass without you noticing, or you live a lifetime in 10 minutes. Sometimes you'll have a flashback to something that never happened, or déjà vu so intense you question if you're trapped in a loop. This temporal disorientation is not madness, it's transcendence. Your third eye is peeling back the illusion of linear time. Past, present, and future aren't separate anymore. They become one swirling, sacred now. You begin to remember not just what happened, but what is always happening. Your soul isn't bound by clocks, it moves in spirals. So when you feel like you've stepped outside of time, trust it. You're seeing with more than eyes. And then you'll meet the sixth sign, the mirror. No, not the actual one in your bathroom, though that might start to feel odd too. I mean the mirror that shows up in people, situations, and even strangers. Suddenly, others begin triggering you deeply. You get irrationally angry at someone for something small, or you feel pulled towards someone who reminds you of a version of yourself you buried. These aren't coincidences. When your third eye awakens, the universe starts reflecting your inner world with brutal clarity. Every encounter becomes a lesson. Every frustration becomes an invitation. But most people miss it because they're too busy blaming others. Will you have the courage to ask, what is this trying to show me about myself? Finally, we arrive at the seventh and perhaps the most invisible sign. Silence. Not outer silence. Inner. A space begins to form between your thoughts. You might be washing dishes and suddenly realize you've been in wordless awareness for 5 minutes. No anxiety, no desire, just presence. At first it might feel eerie. You'll wonder if something's wrong. You might even panic because you're not used to peace. But this silence is sacred. It is the voice behind all voices. The third eye doesn't scream, it doesn't argue, it speaks in stillness. And when it finally speaks to you, it won't be in English, it will be in knowing. You'll just know something is true. You'll feel it ripple through your being with the clarity of lightning and the warmth of a hug. But you must get quiet enough to hear it. You see, these 7 signs are not glamorous. They're not the light shows Instagram promises. They're raw, unsettling, even painful. But that's how real awakening begins. Not with fireworks, but with the slow dismantling of the false. And here's the paradox. The more uncomfortable it gets, the closer you are to truth. So when you begin to fall apart, I want you to remember, maybe you're not breaking down, maybe you're breaking through. Why seeing the unseen is so terrifying, and why you must keep going anyway. When the third eye opens, even just a little, the world changes. Not just the outer world, but the one inside you. And what many don't realize is that awakening is not just about gaining spiritual powers or becoming more enlightened. It's about becoming more real. And realness isn't always beautiful. In fact, it's often brutal. Because when you truly begin to see energy, truth, hidden motives, the threads of destiny connecting everything, you cannot go back to pretending. And this is where the fear begins, not because you're weak, but because the illusions you used to rely on for safety start to crumble, and suddenly you're exposed to something far greater than your old sense of self could handle. You might notice it in small, almost imperceptible ways at first. Someone smiles at you, but behind their smile you feel tension, manipulation, or sorrow. A place you used to love suddenly feels heavy or hollow, like it's been drained of life. You start to pick up on energy signatures of people, environments, even objects. It's not that you're trying to read anyone, it just happens. Their pain, their lies, their fears, they begin to vibrate around you. It can feel like sensory overload. And here lies one of the greatest spiritual dilemmas. What do you do when you can no longer unsee what's hidden? Most people run. They retreat back into distraction, pretending the veil is still intact. But you, if you're still listening, have a choice to go deeper. This kind of awakening is terrifying because it forces you into a new level of responsibility. You no longer get to claim ignorance. When you see someone hurting and you feel it as if it were your own pain, what do? When you sense darkness in someone who appears innocent, do you speak? Do you walk away? Do you trust yourself? The third eye doesn't just grant you mystical insight, it demands inner maturity. It makes you walk with truth, and truth is not easy. Because here's the secret. Truth doesn't make you more comfortable, it makes you more conscious. And consciousness is a fire that burns away your delusions, your attachments, and even your identity. You'll also begin to encounter more spiritual paradoxes. You'll realize that light isn't always good and darkness isn't always evil, that some things that look beautiful are filled with decay, and others that seem frightening hold great healing. This alone can shatter the binary way of thinking that religion and culture often push. But the third eye doesn't deal in binaries. It sees beyond. It perceives essence, not appearance. And essence is complex, layered, and sometimes contradictory. This perception can make you feel like you're going crazy because nothing fits neatly into the categories you used to believe in. But in reality, you're not losing your mind. You're reclaiming it. From years of conditioning, societal programming, and spiritual misunderstanding, you will also begin to feel an invisible presence guiding you, even when you're not asking. Call it your higher self, the divine, your spirit guides, whatever name feels right to you. But it's there, nudging, pushing, whispering, sometimes through signs, sometimes through loss, often through uncomfortable events that force you to grow. And it won't always feel gentle. In fact, the more open your third eye becomes, the more your life may start to collapse in the areas where you've built on falsehoods. Relationships may end, careers may crumble, long-held dreams may evaporate, and you'll wonder, why is everything falling apart now that I'm awakening? The answer? Because anything not aligned with your soul cannot survive in the frequency of truth. Your third eye doesn't just open your perception, it opens your path. And sometimes that means destroying the road you're currently on. Let me ask you something difficult. What are you still holding on to that you know is no longer meant for you? That friend, that job, that belief about yourself you've outgrown? What if that discomfort you've been trying to escape is not a punishment, but a message? What if the collapse is the invitation? Your awakening is not meant to make you a better version of who you were. It's meant to reveal who you really are, beneath the masks, beneath the achievements, beneath the fears. And to do that, everything false must burn. This is why the process feels so violent at times, why your soul feels like it's being ripped from your skin, because it is. The false self is dying, and in its place, the seer is being born. But here's the miracle hidden in the chaos. The more you surrender, the more clearly you begin to see. Not just spiritually, but emotionally, mentally, and even physically. You notice synchronicities accelerating, numbers, symbols, chance encounters. They start aligning like puzzle pieces falling into place. You think of someone and they call. You feel guided to go somewhere and a key moment happens there. It's as if life begins speaking in a secret language and your third eye is the decoder. But it only works when you stop resisting, when you stop demanding certainty and begin walking in trust. And in this trust, something beautiful starts to emerge. Inner stillness, a calm knowing. You're no longer rattled by things that used to throw you off balance. You stop trying to control everything and instead start observing, receiving, aligning. And that's the paradox. After the storm of awakening, there comes peace. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You've begun to see, not with your eyes, not with your intellect, but with the sacred vision that sees through illusion into the soul of things. This is what the third eye is truly for, not to escape reality, but to perceive it truthfully. The invisible war within you. How awakening activates your deepest spiritual battles. There is a sacred moment in every spiritual journey when you realize the enemy you feared was never outside of you. The shadows you spent your life avoiding, the fear, the rage, the shame, the guilt, aren't foreign invaders. They are your own forgotten fragments. And when the third eye opens even just a little, it doesn't just illuminate your path forward. It shines an unrelenting light inward onto every crack in your being. This is the invisible war, not between good and evil, but between your conditioned self and your true self. And this war doesn't look like swords and blood. It looks like resistance, procrastination, self-sabotage, doubt that whispers like a poison in your mind. The moment you step toward your higher purpose, the old you begins to panic because it knows it's dying. This spiritual battle becomes most intense in silence. Not external silence, but the inner space where your mind finally slows down and you can hear the subtle voice of your soul. That voice doesn't scream, it nudges, it suggests, and most of all, it reminds. It brings up everything you've been avoiding, the ex you never truly forgave, the lie you've been living, the parts of yourself you've demonized to survive in a world that rewards masks. When your third eye awakens, there is no more hiding. You begin to feel everything, your truth, your wounds, and the great cosmic pull toward transformation. But here's the terrifying part. Transformation requires death, and not the death of your body, but of your comfort, your ego, your false beliefs. That's why this part of the journey feels like war. You might find yourself swinging between polarities. One day you feel deeply connected to all of life. You can sense energy, read people's intentions, feel animals communicating with you. Then the next day you're filled with despair, rage, or apathy. This isn't inconsistency, it's the vibration of your being recalibrating. Your third eye is attempting to bring your body, mind, and soul into alignment with a new frequency. And that process is violent, not in the way of destruction, but in the way a storm clears the forest floor to make room for new growth. So if you feel crazy, unstable, or like you're becoming someone else, good, you are. And that someone else is who you were before the world taught you to shrink. And the more awake your third eye becomes, the more you begin to perceive the invisible threads behind every event. You start noticing how everything is connected, how the people who hurt you were just reflecting your unconscious wounds, how the jobs that drained you were pointing you toward your soul mission, how even the worst moments of your life had a kind of hidden mercy. This is not just awakening, it's spiritual warfare, because once you see, you can no longer play the victim. You must become the alchemist, the one who takes pain and transmutes it into purpose, and nothing is more terrifying to the ego than responsibility without blame. But there's a deeper layer to this war, and it's not just internal. As you awaken, you begin to disturb the systems around you. Your energy starts triggering those who are still asleep. You'll notice people treating you differently, becoming defensive, dismissive, or even hostile. Not because you changed, but because your presence is confronting them with a truth they're not ready to face. This is one of the most painful parts of the third eye opening. You realize that clarity often leads to disconnection. You see things others don't. You feel things others numb. You know things others mock. And it can be lonely. But here's what no one tells you. Your clarity is not a curse. It's a torch. And sometimes you must carry that torch alone until others are ready to see. What makes this war so exhausting is that it never fully ends. Awakening is not a single event, it's a lifelong unfolding. And each time you reach a new level of clarity, another layer of shadow is revealed. This isn't failure, it's deepening. And every time you choose to face it instead of flee, you become more sovereign, more powerful, more you. The third eye doesn't make life easier, it makes it realer. And real life includes suffering, confusion, uncertainty. But it also includes beauty, synchronicity, divine timing, and peace that passes all understanding. So if you're at war within yourself right now, know this: you are not broken. You are not behind. You are being initiated. The discomfort is not proof that something is wrong, it is proof that something sacred is being born. You are stepping into the fire that burns away illusion, and while that fire may terrify your ego, it is the very thing your soul has been craving. Not comfort, not safety, but truth. And that truth, once fully embraced, becomes your liberation. When the third eye fully opens, how to walk with power, grace, and sacred vision in the real world. There's a moment after the war, the inner battles, the shedding of illusions, the soul-cracking awakenings, when you emerge, not unscathed, not untouched, but transformed. And in that moment, your third eye doesn't just open, it remains open. And that is when a different kind of challenge begins. Not one of destruction, but of integration. Because now you must walk in the world as someone who sees through it. You must speak truth in a place built on half-truths. You must stay soft in a world that trains you to harden. This is where the real mastery begins, not in having visions, but in being able to live your life fully, authentically, and powerfully while knowing exactly what's behind the curtain of reality. When your third eye is fully active, life becomes a constant feedback loop. Everything becomes symbolic. The arguments you witness, the strangers who cross your path, the dreams you keep having, all of it is guidance. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you ask, "What is this trying to show me?" That question is the mark of an awakened mind. It's not that suffering disappears, but your relationship to it evolves. You start to sense divine intelligence, even in the darkest moments. You stop feeling like life is attacking you. You begin to recognize that life is awakening you, over and over again. But with great vision comes great responsibility. Your third eye doesn't give you special status, it gives you sacred duty. Because now that you can see the pain behind people's anger, you're called to show compassion. Now that you can feel the manipulation in systems and institutions, you're called to live with integrity. Now that you can see past the surface of the world, you're called to act, not from fear, but from truth. And truth doesn't always make you popular. It makes you free. That's the power the third eye grants you. Not magical abilities to escape the world, but the clarity and courage to walk through it untouched by illusion. You'll begin to realize that your presence alone affects people. You don't even have to say much. Your eyes will carry a weight. Your energy will shift a room. You'll speak softly and others will lean in. But here's the thing, you won't care about being seen anymore. You won't need validation, applause, or attention. Because when your third eye is open, you're not here to perform, you're here to align. And alignment means living so closely to your truth that you no longer betray yourself just to be accepted. Still, it won't be perfect. Awakening doesn't make you a saint, it makes you real. You'll still stumble, you'll still doubt. But the difference is, you'll know when you've strayed from your path. Your intuition will feel like thunder. Your body will reject anything not meant for you. Your dreams will warn you, and you'll have the courage to pivot, to say no, to walk away, not because it's easy, but because now you see. Seeing is not comfortable, but it is sacred. And once you see, you can't unsee. Eventually, you'll come to love the silence, not the empty, lonely kind, but the alive, pregnant silence that lives between words. You'll find yourself less reactive, more reflective, less interested in opinions, more focused on frequency. You'll realize that wisdom doesn't come from knowing more, it comes from being more present. The third eye doesn't just show you visions, it awakens the seer. And the seer doesn't chase enlightenment, they embody truth. And that's the final secret. The third eye doesn't open to help you escape the world, it opens so you can embrace it, so you can hold space for its contradictions, so you can walk through shadows without absorbing them, so you can recognize the divine in the broken, the sacred in the ordinary. This is not about becoming supernatural, it's about becoming fully human, but from a higher octave of consciousness. So if you feel different now, good. You're not supposed to go back. You're not supposed to shrink. You're not supposed to forget what you've seen. You're here to be the living proof that awakening is not a myth, it's a memory, one we all carry, one that activates the moment we're ready to live in full spectrum truth. You've crossed the veil, you've survived the fire, now live like you've seen the other side. And don't just keep the vision for yourself, become the vision for others. Because when the third eye opens, it doesn't just change how you see, It changes who you are